Shooting is very much a mental game, meaning that if you believe you suck, you're probably going to suck. If you believe you can do well, that's going to be very helpful. The example that I like to give always when it comes to this is when you're shooting a drill. Let's use, for example, the test, which we'll do later today, but 10 shots in 10 seconds at 10 yards. If I shoot that drill and I, shoot a 99 on it, or the super test, it's a 300-point drill, and I shoot a 299 and I'm walking down to look at my target, guess which bullet I'm looking at? I'm looking at the one that I went out. That's the one I'm beating myself up over. That's the one I'm mad about. And I'm not thinking about the 29 shots that I did correctly. So the battle here, or the struggle, from a mental performance standpoint or a self-image standpoint, is to make sure that you are thinking about those shots that you make correctly. You need to think about and absorb when you're shooting the way you're supposed to be shooting, and that's what you need to think about, what looks like, feels like, smells like, all right? And not spend all this mental focus on the things that you do wrong. And that, we all do it. I understand that that's the case, but that's the important piece here. The other thing is, when we start shooting and you're shooting these drills, you need to be your own best coach. We use these reduced size targets for a reason, because we shoot close enough that you know when you can see when you make a mistake. If we were shooting back at 25 yards, or about 20 yards is what it would take to simulate that 2-inch circle. If we were back at about 20 yards, you would have to kind of walk down and then see how things shook out on the target. And then you don't know which shot was in and which shot was out. You shot a string of 10, well, unless you're calling your shots really well, you're like, ooh, what happened here? I don't know, right? Whereas when you're up at 4 or 5 yards and you're shooting on a small dot, you immediately know, either you can see what you did, or you look down at the target and go, ooh, that wasn't good. If you have a consistent behavior on your target this morning, meaning that you're missing low and left, or you're not hitting the intended target that you're supposed to, it is on you to make a correction. I don't need to come up to you and go, hey, your target tells me that you're missing, right? You should be able to see that. It's on you to make a correction. Remember, most of the mistakes in shooting are made the millisecond before the gun goes bang. Not like way beforehand. It's right there at the end is when we make that anticipation thing and the dot moves. And if you're not watching the sights when the gun goes bang and watching it lift, you're not going to get the visual feedback that you need. If you don't see, meaning if you're looking at your target and you're shooting and everything looks good, but you're low left, you're closing your eyes when the gun goes bang. You've got what a lot of people will refer to as a micro flinch. All right, so if you're shooting, if we go up here and we start shooting a 10-shot string and you're not seeing that dot go to where the bullet's going, or you're not seeing that sight go to where the bullet's going, that means your eyes are not open when the gun goes bang. And you have to work on that. Dry fire is going to be your friend. The other thing, if you don't believe me and you don't see it, ask me. I'll come videotape you so you can see your eye closing. And 9 times out of 10, as soon as I turn the camera on and stick it on your eye, you stop doing it, and all of a sudden you go, oh, yeah, my dot went right where the bullet went. As soon as I stick a camera on your eye, like, I'm gonna watch you flinch. You're like, no! And your eyes are... You have to be your own best coach. So don't beat yourself up. But if things are not working out, you have to do something different. If you need to stop, unload your gun and dry fire for a little bit, that's fine. I'd rather you do that and make a correction than just keep ingraining that same thing into your subconscious, right? If you do something incorrectly enough, you can make that permanent. All right, somewhere along now, I bring up something to make sure that you guys are aware of. And I think it's important that you understand this from a improving as a shooter standpoint, and understanding how you should train and how things could be causing problems for you and you may not be aware of it. When we come to the line and we run drills, how many rounds do we normally shoot? at the most. You normally are not going to shoot more than 30 rounds in an entire drill that we're running. Even when we do multiple reps of something, you're going to 30, 35 rounds, something like that, and then we're going to stop, go back, recharge our magazines, reface targets, tape up, something like that. That is by design. That is not like, I'm lazy, I don't want to do anymore, or that's enough of that. It's by design. If you guys are giving the shooting the mental level of focus and the physical level of focus that requires to shoot well, by the time you get to the end of 35, 40 rounds, most of you are probably starting to get either mentally or physically fatigued. The reason I bring this up is I see all the time people say, I'm going to the range tomorrow, and they'll post something on Instagram or whatever, and they'll have like 60 mags all laid out and blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna get in 400 rounds of practice in 30 minutes. That is not good for your performance. I guarantee it, okay? A lot of people just believe that if I shoot more, I'll get better. That's not the way it works, okay? The quality of the way you practice is just as important as the quantity of the amount of rounds that you shoot. If you go to the range and you say, I'm gonna shoot, I'm gonna lay them all out here and I'm gonna shoot 100 rounds, what happens is those first 30, 40 rounds are pretty good, but the next 60 to 70 rounds, the grip gets relaxed. The mental focus goes down. You're not really thinking as well as you should be thinking while you shoot, okay? And that means the bulk of your practice is sloppy and not as focused as and intense as it should be. You're teaching yourself to shoot at a more relaxed state, okay? And your learning curve is not gonna happen. It's gonna kind of dip off. And then you'll be like, wow, I shot all this ammo and I'm not getting any better. Of course not, because the effectiveness of your training is not there. It's also the reason dry fire is so important, because you can get a lot, even if it's only 15 minutes a day, you get in a 10 or 15 minutes of dry fire, you're gonna see your skill go up. And if you think, well, I've got plenty of ammo and access to a range, I'll just shoot more, I don't need to dry fire. I do not believe that that works. I really don't. Dry fire shows you things that live fire does not, okay? So I just want you guys to be aware of this. This is by design. I don't just go, oh, well, that's, yeah, 35 rounds, that's enough. There's a reason or a method to my madness when it comes to this. It's bad enough that we're out here trying to shoot 500 rounds a day for 3 days, right? That's tough on you mentally and physically. But if you stood up here on the line and tried to shoot 100, 150 rounds in a string of fire, I guarantee you most of your performances would start dipping off.